Hi, welcome to the Thereafter podcast. On this podcast, we interview business professionals, creatives, and community based organizations. And today we have a special guest for you.
I feel like whenever I do these, it seems like I'm just gassing people up, but I really mean it. This guy is amazing. He's one of the most humble, honest, really a great man. He's a father of 5, which I'm always pumped on. I'm the 5th son, if you guys haven't remembered that from the other podcast. He did time in the Air Force. He served the country. He did 19 years in medical sales. And soon, early next year, he's launching his executive coaching business. So without further ado, Brad Lively.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming by, Brad.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Brad is a great friend of mine, and we spent some time talking about fear and how that's a pain point for a lot of people who are launching into their passion. So I think to start, I would just love to hear what first led to you gaining insights on fear. We just want to hear your thoughts on people and their fears stopping them from going to the next level in their lives, whether that be their creative passions or their business.
Yeah, I grew up and I had great parents, honestly. They did so much for me. They really were attentive and they came to all my sporting events and they were really great parents. But I noticed later in life that there was also a lot of control. And I didn't really know what control was until one day I was, in the Air Force. I was a nuclear missileer. So I went down below ground, and while my crew partner was sleeping, I was watching TV, and this woman came on and she was talking about the 3 forms of control, which I had never heard before, didn't know anything about. But they are, one, domination, which says I'll make you do it my way. Intimidation, I'll scare you into doing it my way. And manipulation, I'll trick or deceive you into doing it my way. And the last thing that she said that I remember was they all 3 minister through the fear of loss. So fear finds what you're afraid of losing and leverages that to force you in the direction it wants you to go. And so when she shared that, I was like, well, this is how everybody deals with everybody. This is how a spouse gets their spouse to do what they want. This is how a parent gets their child to do what they want. This is how, bosses get employees to do what they want. They use fear tactics to leverage people in the direction they want them to go, which gives them control over that person. It gives them control over the situation. And that's something that makes us feel really powerful. But what we have to understand about fear is it only is able to create illusions. Fear never operates in reality. The only language that fear talks is deception.
Wow.
That's it.
That's good.
It can only deceive. So its job is to create an illusion that you think is real that affects your decisions. So God, on the other hand, he only deals in reality. The only language he speaks is truth. So if you're looking at a situation and you're looking at it through a lens of fear, you're seeing an illusion. And that illusion is going to cause you to make one decision. But if you're looking at it through a lens of truth, through God's perspective, you're going to see the reality of it, and it'll cause you to make a different decision. So depending on whatever's motivating you in your heart, that's the direction you're going to go.
Yeah.
You ever said, like, I don't know how I wound up here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it sucks so
Yeah.
bad?
Yeah.
Well, it's because you're unaware of your motive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fear becomes so normal to us that we don't recognize it as fear. And that's the engine that's driving us to the destination. So your motive is like your GPS.
Yeah.
And so if it's fear is your motive, it's going to plug in certain coordinates, and that's where you're going to wind up. But if love is your motive, it's going to input different coordinates into the GPS.
Wow.
And you'll wind up in a different destination. Because you can't wind up in the same destination. Love and fear will never wind up in the same place. Never.
That's good. And we just had a conversation about fear recently,
Yeah.
a week ago.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been a revelation or a revelatory time, because what areas of my life am I moving out of fear in?
Yeah.
And that's like starting to be like a little mental practice as I wake up in the morning, as I continue forward with the different tasks and different things that I want to complete. I'm like, what is my motivation in this? And I think that's, even when I feel like I'm doing well, even having this conversation right now, I think there's certain things popping up in my head where I'm like, am I moving in fear in this area?
Yeah.
Did I make this decision because of fear?
Yeah.
So I think it's really, it's
Life-changing.
profound. It's profound.
It is
yeah.
life-changing, because you can go back to you can look at anyone's life, and if they're experiencing things that they hate or that they really don't want to experience, you can trace it back to a root of fear.
Yeah.
But most of us are so, well, that's the deceptiveness of fear, is it hides. Right? It's a master at hiding itself. And the other thing that's huge is, what kind of atmosphere did you grow up in? Because, everything is a frequency, right? And the frequency that you're immersed in is going to program you.
Right.
It's going to tune you to a certain sound. And so whatever you're tuned to, that's what's going to be normal for you. And so a lot of times, this is huge in parenting, because I think it's been this way for so long, we don't realize how negatively it affects our kids. But when you use fear to force compliance with your children, you're teaching them to be afraid.
Yeah.
We think, though, oh, it's getting them to do something good. Like, it's getting them to obey my directive, because I know what will keep them safe. But what they don't understand is the method that you're using to teach them is bringing harm to them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a good intention,
Yeah.
but the method is not good,
Right.
because you're actually programming them to only respond to fear.
Right. Bad stimuli.
Right. And so when they get into a relationship, the only thing that speaks to them, that moves them, is fear, which is not good.
No.
Because anytime you introduce fear into a relationship, the first thing it's going to do is create distance.
Wow.
Because it's teaching the other person that I'm not safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? If you put me in this situation, it's going to get unsafe. And so what is that person going to do? They're going to avoid that situation
Yeah.
through lying, pretending,
Mm-hmm.
the things that we do to hide.
Yeah.
And so that in and of itself creates a distance between the hearts.
Mm.
And so when you grow up in a home that uses fear to discipline, you are comfortable with distance, which is not good for a relationship,
Right.
right? It becomes normal to you not to be intimate, because only truth can create an intimacy.
Yeah.
That's what intimacy is. It's not, the bedroom.
Right.
It's the connection between two hearts.
Right.
Like, being naked means that you're completely vulnerable
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and truthful. And that's what it means to be intimate with someone. You can be truly, deeply intimate with someone and not have sex,
Yeah.
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 right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what they call like emotional affairs and things
Right.
like that. Like, you can really let somebody into your heart just by being truthful,
Yes.
Right.
by laying bare your heart. And so I think we've lost intimacy. And then we bring that into our relationship with God.
Yeah.
So that has deeply affected my relationship with God, because I had learned that when I wanted to receive someone's praise or acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
then I needed to perform well for them.
Right.
Right.
The things that they liked, I wanted to do that for them. The things that, they really enjoyed, I wanted to make sure that I liked those things and really enjoyed those things too. Even if I didn't, I was going to pretend,
Right.
Yeah.
because that's how you get people to accept you, right?
Wow. Wow.
So I brought that into my relationship with God. What is God like? Oh, he likes for you to tithe. Okay, I'm going to tithe. Oh, he likes for you to read your Bible. He likes for you to pray. He likes for you to go to church. And I was a great performer. So I did all that stuff really well,
Yeah.
thinking this is how I get his acceptance.
Mhm.
And it wasn't. It didn't work.
Yeah.
And I walked in that deception for around 30 years. And I think a lot of Christians are in that.
Yeah.
I think they're doing that exact same thing.
Yeah.
They are pretending, performing
Yeah.
to gain acceptance from God, but he doesn't deal that way. Like he doesn't respond with favor and blessings when you're pretending,
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
because he can't be controlled.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
When there's no fear in someone's heart, you literally can't control them.
Yeah.
The only thing, and
They don't,
here's,
they don't react to outside stimuli.
Yeah.
here's the thing
Yeah.
that we have to understand: control is a spell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's the wand of witches.
Right.
It literally is a spell that's created to enslave you.
Mm.
And so the only way to break the spell is with love,
Yeah.
truth, like the kingdom, the power of the kingdom.
Right.
It's the only thing that can
Absolutely.
wake you up and be like, oh my gosh, somebody's had a spell. Like I've been
Yeah.
under a spell. That's literally what I felt like I came out of when I finally understood and came into the realization of what it means to fear God.
Yeah.
That broke the spell
Right.
and started waking me up and giving me eyes to see and ears that could hear and actually respond correctly to God. I had to relinquish control.
Mm.
And so if you want to heal your marriage, if you want to heal your business, if you want to heal your friendships and your relationships, the only way to do it is to begin to trust in the Father's love. Because everything that fear does teaches you to doubt his love. Like fear's job is to indoctrinate you in a belief system that makes God's love not make sense. Like the Pharisees, even though God was standing right in front of them and speaking the words of God, fear had trained them
Right.
and taught them and deceived them so deeply that they thought he was demonic.
Right.
They thought the God of the universe was darkness.
Yeah.
Man.
That's what fear does. It completely it turns evil into good and good into evil. So when we are experiencing divorce, distance, breakups, all this stuff, it's
Yeah.
because we have become students and disciples of fear. You can't be a disciple of Jesus and everything around you be breaking,
Right.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And you're struggling and you're drained and you're heavy and all these things. It's all fruit of fear.
Wow.
So it's like everything is happening for us to try and get our attention so that we can realign with God.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Anyway, I went on a long little rant there, but
No, it was great.
Can you talk a little bit about just go into a little bit more detail about everything happening for us,
yeah,
just for the viewers who are listening? 'Cause
Yeah,
we
that
talked
was-
about this a little bit last
Yeah,
week, and
that was a
was
big,
good.
big shift in my life. I had a mentor, and his name's Pedro Adeo, but he was the first one that introduced me to that phrase, everything happens for us, not to us. The cry of a victim is everything is happening to me. The cry of a victor is everything's happening for me.
Yeah.
And so being in God means that we're victors.
Yeah.
And literally everything in our life is for us. And it's also the difference between fear and love. When you're walking in love, everything is a blessing. Everything is a gift. Everything is making you better and stronger and more powerful.
Right.
But when you're walking in fear, everything is against me. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. I'm not enough. Like you're in a deficit.
Mhm.
Fear creates the illusion. It's an illusion that you're in a deficit.
Yeah.
That you're not qualified. You don't have this skill set, and you don't have these looks, and you don't have this intellect, and you like it's always telling you you're not enough and you'll never have enough. So it makes an enemy out of everybody and everything, and which makes sense. So you think about a marriage, they begin quote unquote in love,
Right.
which I would question that. Knowing what I know about love,
Yeah.
most relationships begin in deception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're attracted to each other,
Mhm.
that's there.
Yeah.
You genuinely think each other, you're good looking or hot or whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe you like some natural giftings that they have that you think are awesome.
Yeah.
But a lot of times relationships begin the way that we're taught to grow up, the way that we're taught to be and relate to our parents, which is I got to pretend and perform to get their praise,
Right.
to get their acceptance.
Right.
Love takes time.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Love is patient.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you grow up in an environment where your parents, if you do something wrong, they flip out on you, and inflict pain and harm, maybe they degrade you or whatever, all because they're trying to get you to do something right or good, well, then you learn to perform. Like
Yeah.
parents don't realize how harmful fear is when it comes to discipline, but it's so normal.
Yeah.
Like parents just want to figure out how to shut something down as fast as possible.
Right.
And fear is quick. And so, or they want to get their child to never do something again. So they make it so horrific, the discipline so horrific and so painful and so like scary and demonstrative,
Right.
so that the child will never do that harmful thing again. Their intentions are good, but they don't realize that they're training their kids to be afraid.
Right.
And so that's what usually begins most relationships, right?
Yeah, I just want to jump in on that because I was talking to a friend where with my own daughter, I have a 9-year-old, and I always kind of hearken on her being truthful with me,
Yeah.
kind of getting across the point to her, like, what do you have to be afraid of? You're in 3rd grade, you got a bad grade on the test, so you're gonna lie to me about it.
Yeah.
Like what is it that is holding you back? I was like, because I'd rather you tell me the truth, then we know what we need to work on,
Yeah.
than you being like, oh, I'm afraid that my dad's gonna be upset that X, Y, and Z happen.
Yes. And that's what I've been shifting. That's one of the biggest things that have shifted in my life is my discipline,
Mm-hmm.
how I discipline. And I've started realizing that when you partner with God, he partners with you. When you draw near to him, how do you draw near to him?
I see.
Trust,
Yeah. Wow.
surrender.
Yep.
That's how you get close to him. You want to get close to God? Trust him.
And that is a very difficult
And that's
thing.
That's the thing.
Not easy.
It's not
It's not easy.
yeah, but that's his barrier of entry.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going
Right.
to be in relationship with him and be close to him and not trust him.
Yeah.
Unless,
Like that should be a barrier entry for us.
yes,
Like,
yes.
and that's one thing that patience does in a relationship. It doesn't we become so impatient because we're trying to medicate lack.
Yeah.
So if we can get into bed with somebody, that's medication
Right.
for our lack.
Right.
That makes us feel intimate,
Right.
Yeah.
but it's not.
Yeah.
It's a deception. It's an
Yeah.
illusion.
Trust implies vulnerability.
Yeah.
You can't trust someone if you're not willing to be. if you're not, oh, I can't leave any flaw. I can't, you don't trust them.
And what is trust though? Like what makes us feel safe? The lack of harm.
Yeah.
So the scripture says love does no harm.
Yeah.
That's key. That's a huge phrase. Love does no harm.
Wow.
Fear only harms.
And I know this is like a cliche, but just it kept coming back to my mind when you said it. You know, you had good intentions. The road to hell is paved in good intentions.
Exactly.
So we as a people need to work on being more self-aware. What is my good intentions? Am my good intentions catalyzed by fear, or is it catalyzed by truth and love?
Right.
Yeah.
Motivation.
Well, and I was back to your thing about the lying and the kids. Since I have shifted and I've not, so we think we're good disciplinarians when we stop something right away. And culture says, oh, that's a good parenting. Yeah, you shut that down. Oh, they didn't say anything disrespectful. Oh, you're a good parent. Oh, your kids make good grades. Oh, that's good parenting. So we've made it all about the outer, the performance.
Right.
When I think it's powerful when a kid feels safe enough to speak their mind and to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's good
huge.
parenting. But somebody
Yes.
else would be like, oh, they're so disrespectful. Oh, you need to shut that down. You need to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like, all kids have trouble with lying because all kids have this, the sin nature. Well, really, you could replace it with the fear nature.
Yeah.
So we all have that working in us from the beginning.
Yeah.
But the way to destroy that is with love. So one of my kids lies to me. I get really gentle and really kind, and we just have a talk. Hey, it's okay. You're safe.
Right.
You can tell me the truth. Like, Daddy's not going to be angry with you.
Right. Yeah.
I love you, and it's okay. Dad makes mistakes. Dad's lied before.
Right.
But it really hurt me. Like, it
Yeah.
caused me a lot of pain to lie.
Yeah.
And I don't want that for you. Like, you're safe.
Yeah.
And I've done that like repetitively. Not
That's
just once.
Once, but
And then
consistency.
great punishment. No,
Right.
repetitively. And so
Consistency.
my child's learning, I can tell my dad the truth.
Yeah.
Like, I can really tell him the truth.
Yeah.
I don't have to hide from him. And so she's learning what love feels like.
Yeah.
And that she's going to look for that in a relationship
Yeah.
Yes.
because it's being taught to her, and that's become a normal sound. It's developing a frequency that she can relate to and that she enjoys. And so that's preparing her for an honest relationship.
Yeah.
And she's going to look for that in a man.
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily how quick you get your child to obey, but how well you love them through the process.
Yeah.
Because everything is a process. What have you mastered like one time?
Yeah.
I've nothing.
I don't think I've ever been good at anything on the first time.
Everything is a process. Everything.
Right.
And so,
luck aside.
What
Yeah.
kind of process are you training your kids in? Process of fear or a process of love? Because that's what's teaching them.
Yeah.
Discipline is making disciples. That's it. So what are you discipling your kids in?
Yeah.
Love or fear? Is there always a threat,
Right.
an ultimatum, a fear of loss?
Yeah.
I'm going to take this from you. No, it doesn't mean we don't understand boundaries.
Yeah.
Boundaries to us are always ultimatums that control. A true boundary does not control the other person. A true boundary just protects you.
Mhm.
Now, with kids when they're young, I heard a woman who's an expert in parenting, and I liked it. She said sometimes kids aren't able to respond because their responsibility is real low. Like, responsibility is your ability to respond. It's the courage to respond with the ability that you have. So you have to gauge a child's responsibility. You're not going to, a 1-year-old that barely talks, you're not going to set boundaries. Well, okay, don't go into the street. And then you just let them, if they go into the street, oh, well, you know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but you can start to teach them, okay, at a young age, if you don't respond to me, then I'm going to come get you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the way that you come get them is with gentleness.
Yeah, it's love,
and
protect
kindness.
them, keep them.
Yeah, because they're not able to,
Yeah.
you know, you have to gauge where somebody is and their level of responsibility.
Right.
So, but love always protects,
Yeah.
right? But we'll take that, and parents will use that to justify their control.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I just care about you. You know, they justify their control with, it's because I love you.
Right.
Well, I lied because I didn't want to hurt you.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
afraid that was going to hurt you. I was afraid you were going to get hurt.
You were
I
going to
was
leave.
afraid this was going to happen.
Yeah.
I was afraid that's going to happen.
So you can't say, I was afraid because I love you.
Yeah.
You can't.
It's a fallacy.
You
It's an
cannot.
oxymoron.
You cannot do something in fear and call it love,
Right.
which is what we've been doing,
Yeah.
Mhm.
which has perverted our definition of love
Yeah.
and justified it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we keep breaking things. We keep breaking things, and we think, oh, love doesn't work. I've even heard the phrase, love's not enough.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes love is not enough, but that's because we don't understand what God's
Don't
love
get it.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If love is not enough, we are screwed,
Yeah.
right? We have no
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah. You got to understand, all love comes from God, and God is always sufficient, which makes love sufficient.
Exactly. Love is enough, and love will always teach you that you're enough.
That's the thing about it. You hit it right on the nose. Our definition of love.
Yeah.
not right.
Very skewed.
And that's what I want to help people with.
Right.
I want to help people become aware of how we've changed the definition of love to suit our fears,
Yeah.
because it's your fear that's breaking you.
Right.
It's your fear that might not show up now in your company, but if it goes unchecked for 10 years, it'll cause you to lose your company.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, you might not understand how your ROI is affected
Mm-hmm.
right now because it's not very noticeable, but over time, fear will always rob you.
Yeah.
It's compound.
Fear can only do one of three things, right? Steal,
Steal.
kill,
Kill,
or destroy. So whenever we operate in fear, we're going to get one of those outcomes. Period.
That's good.
Man.
So when you feel afraid, just understand that fear is there to rob you, kill you, or destroy you.
Right.
So do you want to partner with that? And that's a conscious choice, like, because we all feel that fear. We feel that fear trying to keep us from going through that door, from staying in that relationship, from starting that new project, from doing something that, we don't know if it's going to be accepted or not. Fear is always there, and its job is to oppose your growth.
Right.
Fear will always stop growth.
Yeah.
This is why, like, psychologists will ask you, how old do you feel? Like, have you ever asked yourself that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How old do you feel? Because I know as an adult, I've often felt like a little kid in a man's body, because I experienced a fearful trauma
Mm-hmm.
that actually stopped my emotional growth.
Mm-hmm.
So my body kept growing, but in my soul, in my heart, I stayed this age
At that moment, it happened.
because I made a covenant with fear
Yeah.
in that traumatic moment, and I partnered with it, and it stopped me right there.
I think that's like a lot of us have really had that.
Yeah. And it was through parenting,
Yeah.
through good intentions,
Yeah.
you know? So I really want, we need to wake up and begin to operate in reality instead of illusion if we want this thing to change. And my heart is to shift the culture that we live in that's controlled by fear back to love. And I believe that process has to begin in the family, because family is the building block of society. It is the brick and mortar that builds the foundation of everything that happens in a nation.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So if we can begin to discipline our kids in love instead of fear, that right there, if we can begin to love our spouse and our kids the way love really is supposed to look like, we'll change the world. Like, the kingdom of God will expand at a rapid rate.
Yeah.
But that's the hardest place to relinquish control. It's the hardest place to relinquish control. Why? Because their decisions affect you.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to experience difficulty because of somebody else's bad choice.
Right.
Nobody wants their reputation blemished because their kids majorly screwed up. Nobody wants their ministry affected
Yeah.
by their kids' bad behavior.
Right.
This is why preachers' kids grow up not liking God.
Yeah.
Because they think God is controlling like their parents.
Right.
It really, like how we parent directly affects our kids' relationship with Him.
Yeah.
We don't know that we're sowing bad seeds. And then, especially people who haven't been introduced to God, they get introduced later on. They're like, well, everything else I've seen has been terrible. So why would this? With more, this guy has authority over my soul?
Well, and it's because we've brought the witch's wand of control into the church.
Yeah.
And so this is what I feel like it is to take God's name in vain. Is to take His loving words
Right.
and deliver them in fear,
Wow.
because you've just changed the meaning
Yeah.
and called it God. Right?
Yeah.
And this is what justifies preachers. It's what justifies parents who are Christians to extremely reject their kids.
It's what's justified a lot of terrible things that's happened in church history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's caused murder,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Killing.
Yep.
It's caused theft,
Right.
and it's caused destruction.
Yep.
Because
Absolutely.
that's all you're going to get with fear.
Yep.
I know people like sensationalize or romanticize the Crusades. They were not sensational and they were not romantic. You know, the pillaging, killing, raping, and destroying of multiple, like, huge pieces of culture, huge pieces of history, huge centers of knowledge and thought. How many libraries were just burnt to the ground? And then the heresy of attributing that to a loving God.
Right.
And some people who don't know God, all they know is history. Like, well, look through history. I'm like, but that was people, not God. That was man, not God.
Right.
That was fear, not love.
So this is the war that we're fighting.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's the war of motive.
Whether it's starting a business, no matter what level you are, whether it's dealing with employees or staff, we've definitely seen people try to get a tighter grip, more control on things, and using different tactics to do that. But it definitely disillusions people. It pushes people away.
Yep.
It stops people from connecting with the mission of the company, things of that nature. And then when it comes to creative passions, we see people with these amazing ideas, but they don't execute because they're afraid that, what will people think of it, or
Yeah.
I'll be exposed, or this or that. And
Yeah.
so we see how fear plays a huge role in both those avenues of life as well.
Yeah.
And then the second thing I wanted to that was one remark, but the thing I wanted to ask you was over this year, because we know we've both been in like a season of our lives where we've been feeling accelerated growth, I think, over this time.
Yeah.
And I've been, I like to call myself a couple steps behind you. So I'm watching you, and it seems like God's been kind of taking me on this journey over the last year, or over this time. What's one of the big key takeaways that you feel like God has dropped in your spirit? Whether it pertains to fear or trusting Him, well, it kind of all is connected to fear. But
Yeah. Man, I guess the best way I can explain this is with that story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So we have a king, that we're dealing with a king who has been trained in fear and believes the illusion that he's not enough. So whenever you believe that you're not enough, you begin to do things in your life to medicate that, right?
Yeah.
And so you have these feelings that you feel, and you're trying to medicate those feelings, just like in sickness. You go get a drug because you have a headache. You want to medicate that symptom, and so you get a drug to temporarily take away the symptom. But it doesn't heal you. Fear can never heal you.
Right.
So he has a statue made of himself. And 60 cubits high by 6 cubits wide. So 6 is the number of man. It's just interesting, those numbers. And he forces everybody to bow to it. Something we have to understand about fear is fear always forces.
Mm-hmm.
Love always leads.
Right.
There's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Slaves are forced.
Mm-hmm.
Sons and daughters are loved and they're led.
Yeah.
Jesus led his disciples. He didn't force them to do anything.
Right.
He was doing the thing, and they got to watch.
Yeah.
That's what leadership is. It just means you're a little more and further up the road so they can watch what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but the goal of a leader is to bring the people up to where he is or she is. Right? It's not to keep them where they are.
Right.
To make you feel good about yourself. And a lot of times in the business world, we have the corporate ladder, which is vertical.
Mm-hmm.
And so it creates the illusion that someone is above you. That's an illusion.
Yeah.
That's an illusion.
Yeah.
And so that illusion of being above and below creates competition, creates jealousy, it creates factions. In the kingdom, everything's horizontal.
Right.
Right? Somebody may be further along than you, but they're not above you.
Right.
They might have experienced more than you, but they're not above you.
Yeah.
And so everybody has equal value and honor and is worthy of being celebrated. And so your life's going to get better the quicker you see the value in them, because you're going to benefit from it. But if you're in a corporate ladder, you got to keep them beneath you. Because you got to stay above them. And so you're going to do things to keep people low. You know what I'm saying? So you see the culture difference?
Yeah.
Just that simple vertical versus horizontal understanding is huge. So this guy wanted to make sure that he kept everybody beneath him. And so he created this process of whenever the instrument sounded, everybody had to bow, or they would get thrown into a furnace. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is how fear works. It finds what you're afraid of losing, which just about everybody's afraid of losing their life. And then it says, this is what you must do, or you will lose your life.
Mm.
We do this in relationship.
Yep.
Either you do this or I'm out.
Right.
And so most people have a fear of rejection. Right?
Yeah.
So that's their biggest fear, of losing that person. So what do? They conform.
Mm.
They comply through force.
Right.
So this guy was using fear to intimidate, dominate, to control his people. And so the problem was there were 3 guys that weren't afraid. You can't control somebody that's not afraid.
Yeah.
Just think if you weren't afraid of losing your job,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like, how powerful is that?
Mhm.
How liberating is that? I remember, I know what it's like in medical sales. I was afraid of my surgeons not being happy. I was afraid of them, of a mistake happening and them not wanting to use us anymore. And it's enslaving.
Right.
Yeah.
It really is a terrible feeling. There's constant anxiety and pressure, and it drains you.
Yeah.
It literally drains you. Fear is always looking for a way to drain you.
Yeah.
Always. God's always looking for a way to fill you up.
Yeah.
So these guys are like, no, not doing it. But if you're afraid, you're going to do it. Right?
Yeah.
But these guys weren't afraid. So they were brought before the king, and the king was like, you better do this or else you're going in the furnace. And the guys were like, hey, even if, look, first of all, our God is able to save us. But even if he doesn't, that's the thing about love.
Yeah.
It completely trusts God.
Yeah.
It's like,
Completely. It's like
Yeah.
it's just laid down.
yeah.
It just lays itself and it's in his hands. He's able to save us.
Yeah.
Nothing's too hard for him. But even if he doesn't, we'll never bow to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. He said it's,
You know?
it ain't it.
So they were completely surrendered.
Wow.
And so
Yep.
then it says that they were bound by really strong men, and the fire was heated up 7 times hotter than normal. It was so hot that even the guard that went to throw them in, they burned up.
They ended up getting burned. Yeah.
They died. And they were thrown in. Okay. So these guys were willing to face the greatest fear head up. And it was so powerful because once they were thrown into their greatest fear, Jesus was there.
Right there with him.
That's awesome.
And not only what spoke to me the most was because they were able to face their fear and not be controlled by it. It says they were bound before they were thrown in. Then when the king was looking in there at them, he's like, wait a second. There were only 3 guys, right? Yes, O king. Well, now I see 4. And these guys are walking around unbound,
Right.
Unbound, free,
and unharmed.
unharmed.
And the 4th looks like the son of a god. And so, but facing your greatest fear is what liberates you.
Yeah.
That's what's going on in my life in this season.
Mhm.
Like I've been facing my biggest fears, the
Right.
fears that led me to failure, the
Yep.
fears that caused me to be rejected,
Right.
that I thought if I did these things would keep me from being rejected.
Right.
That's the deception of fear.
Yeah.
It like makes you think that this is your way out. But really it's your way deeper into the hole.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Really, like if you have a fear of rejection and it causes you to do things, those things that you're doing will cause you to be rejected.
Yeah.
Because whatever you believe, right? Whatever
Yeah.
you believe, that's what you make happen.
Yep.
So a lot of the things that we do are because we're afraid, and that's what causes the things that we're afraid of.
Yep.
And so I've been facing my biggest fears, and this is what is melting the things that bound me before is what's melting them off. Like I'm being freed in a time when I should feel no peace. Like this situation that I'm in is like I should be the most afraid that I've ever been. But I'm experiencing the least amount of
Yeah.
fear that I've
Yeah.
ever experienced
That's awesome.
because I surrendered to him
Right.
and I obeyed him.
Yeah.
I just did what he said. And the longer that I go in this season, the more free I'm becoming.
Right.
And so that's what I would say to people. Like, fear is afraid of you becoming. Fear is afraid of you operating and functioning the way that God originally designed you to
Yeah.
function.
Yeah.
And so fear is always going to try and meet you to stop you from performing that function, from living out that purpose,
Yeah.
from fulfilling that vision, because God put everything in you to heal the world,
Right.
to make it better,
Yeah.
to make it more loving, to make it a safer place.
Right.
Fear wants you to stop. He wants you to stop and not do that.
Yeah.
Don't do those things. And so it's going to make you afraid. Oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you're not talented enough. Oh, that's weird. Nobody's going to like that.
Right.
Well, if it's in you, why is it in you? God always hides the future of a thing inside the thing.
Right.
So what's coming up? Like what's trying to
Yeah.
come out of you?
Yeah.
That fear is causing you to push back down
Right.
and mute. So anyway, I think, in business, in marriage, in family, fear is trying to break us.
Yeah.
Love is the only thing that can heal what's been broken.
Right.
Love is the only thing that can set free and liberate that which is bound. Love is the answer because God is love.
Yeah.
And he's always enough. He's always enough. And if you get in his presence, that's what you're going to feel. Yeah, I can do this. Wow. You did know what you were doing when you made me. Oh,
Right.
I am supposed to look like this.
Mm-hmm.
My facial features are supposed to look like this. It's for a reason. It's for a purpose. It's so my
Right.
people will identify me and be drawn to be and be
Yep.
tracked. Like in his presence, boldness comes.
Yeah.
The opposite of fear happens.
Right.
So I want to create that in my family.
Yeah.
When they come home, they feel like encouraged.
Yeah.
They feel emboldened. They feel powerful. They feel like I can do what I'm supposed to do.
Love that.
Yeah. And that's what we should be teaching our kids.
Right. Wow. I mean, there's so many nuggets that you dropped throughout this whole conversation.
Well,
There's a lot of
I-
nuggets that's been dropped, and I know a little bit personally. We've been sharing about the different times that we've been having, and I know that you're literally walking it out. You're not just talking it; you're walking it out.
trying to.
And I'm trying to too. And
Yeah, man. Look, if what I love, I mean, I'm 48
Mm,
and I've done nothing but fail.
mm,
And I really, what it has built in me is just like a mercy and a compassion
right.
for the process.
Yeah.
The process works.
The process.
It works.
It does.
And that's what I want to, that would be the last thing I would want to leave with people is love really does work.
yeah.
You just have to trust the process
Yep.
of it. It's not going to be quick,
No.
but it's always going to be on time,
Yeah.
right? So stop wanting things so quickly.
Hmm.
It's patience is the rhythm of heaven.
Right.
Patience is the rhythm of heaven.
Patience is the optimal speed that we need to be walking in.
Yeah.
Jesus did more in 3.5 years
Right.
than a bunch of people could do in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And he did it in patience.
And patience.
He was never impatient.
Yep.
And he did more than most people do in lifetimes.
Yeah.
So love is the ultimate weapon. It's like the master of efficiency. It's the master of productivity. It's the master of multiplication. So the sooner we shift into the gear of love, the sooner we're going to take off. And it has nothing to do with how quick you do something. It's whether you stay surrendered in patience or not.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with like how aggressive you are. It's how surrendered are you
Yeah.
in kindness. Because every attribute of love requires you to surrender to it.
Yeah.
And so as long as we're wanting to stay in control, we're working against ourselves. We're running in the hamster wheel. We're climbing out of a bottomless pit. That's what wastes. Fear wastes. Fear will cause you to chase things.
Yeah.
Love will bring them to you. So anyway, yeah, we could talk on this for hours.
No, I love that. And first of all, I want to say thanks for coming by. Thanks for
Yeah.
sharing with everybody.
Thanks for having me.
This has been like kind of like an inside window into some of the conversations me and you have been having.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, when we're having those conversations, I was like, you got to come on the podcast. You got to get on here.
It's speaking to me. I'm getting hit. I'm getting hit hard, guys.
Yeah, this is Q's first time hearing.
I'm getting wrecked. I love it. These are the moments I live for. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming by. We're definitely going to have you back at some point.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. This has been a blessing. And I love you guys' hearts. Like I see a couple of powerhouses of love.
Oh, thanks, man. We appreciate that.
Really, like there's tremendous power that's being released just in you guys obeying and having this podcast. Like you're giving opportunity for the Lord
Yeah.
to partner with you to get his word out,
Right.
to get his message out, because his message is in all of us.
Yeah.
It's just it varied and unique in
Yeah.
different
Unique
ways.
in different ways.
Yeah. But it's all of us are just as powerful and just as beautiful. And so you're providing a platform for that. And that's awesome.
We're trying. Right?
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I see this growing. I really do. And I see God really accelerating you guys in this space.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, we received that. And I just want to say, so real quick, I just want to say that if people want to contact you for your coaching services, we're going to have a link to your social media.
Yeah.
They can DM you, personal
Perfect.
message you, and go from there.
Perfect.
what was the quote you said? You said fear is the rhythm.
No, patience.
Patience.
Patience is the rhythm of heaven.
Patience is the rhythm of heaven. Normally we ask for a quote or a phrase, but I'm gonna do that one. I'm not gonna give you a choice. We usually give everyone a choice. Unfortunately for Brad, he was too fire. He was too hot. Patience is the rhythm of heaven. I'm writing that on my vision board. I'm gonna write it in my heart. Thank you, Brad. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys. And if you want to be more efficient, if you want to be more productive, walk in patience.
Wow. That's a wrap. You heard it all here. We'll be having Brad come on again for sure. Thank you for rocking with us.
Till next time, make sure to like and subscribe.